Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so let's dive right into something that literally strikes fear into the hearts of so many students, the unseen poetry exam. Today, we're going to completely demystify this intimidating assessment and treat it exactly like what it really is. It's a predictable game with clear rules that you can absolutely master.
I mean, we've all been there, right? Or at least we can easily imagine the panic. You sit down, you nervously open the exam paper, and boom, right there in front of you is a poem you have never laid eyes on in your life. The clock is relentlessly ticking down. So what happens next? Well, for a lot of people, it's sheer panic and blank stares. But it really doesn't have to be.
You might be wondering, why does mastering this particular skill matter so much? Well, to put that into perspective, this unseen poetry section is worth a massive 32 marks in total. That actually makes up roughly 25% of your entire GCSE English Literature grade. It is a huge chunk of your final result, and by the end of this explainer, you are going to know exactly how to secure those marks.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, conquering the unseen poem. Then, the two-part exam model, mastering AO1 Deep Understanding, mastering AO2 Writer's Craft, and finally, climbing the mark scheme.
Section 1. Conquering the unseen poem.
Let's start by totally reframing how we look at these unfamiliar, scary texts. Here is the absolutely crucial point, and I really want to emphasize this. There is no single right answer. The examiners aren't hiding some secret code that you somehow have to miraculously crack. Instead, poetry is what we call a writerly text. This simply means the examiners want to see you construct your own narrative and your own interpretation. You actually get to make the meaning based on what you see and feel, and as long as you can support it with evidence from the text, your interpretation is 100% valid.
Section 2. The two-part exam model.
Now that we've got the right mindset, let's break down the specific mechanics of the assessment to show you exactly how this game is played. You're basically facing two distinct tasks here. Part A asks you to write an essay on one unseen modern poem. This assesses both your overall understanding, that's AO1, and your analysis of language, which is AO2. Now, this part is the heavy lifter, worth 24 marks. Then comes Part B, worth just 8 marks, where you compare that first poem with a second, much shorter unseen poem. Notice that Part B only assesses AO2. Knowing exactly where your marks come from is a total game changer, because it tells you precisely which skills you need to deploy and exactly when to use them.
The whole assessment model acts just like a giant hourglass. It literally dictates the flow of your exam response. You start wide at the top with AO1, looking at what the poem is broadly about. Identifying the speaker and grasping those big ideas. Then you narrow down into the middle of the hourglass. That's your AO2, zooming in super closely on the mood, the specific language choices, the techniques, and for Part B, comparing a specific image or structure. Finally, you widen back out at the base with your personal view on the overall effectiveness of the poem, hitting AO1 once again. Honestly, it's the perfect template for structuring your essay.
Section 3. Mastering AO1 Deep Understanding.
We know we need AO1, but what does it actually mean in practice? Well, AO1 is fundamentally all about inferences. It's your ability to explain what you understand about the poet's ideas directly from the specific words they chose to use. But here's the secret to hitting those top marks in AO1. You actually need to step outside the text. You've got to link the specific details in the poem to big ideas about the human experience. Are they talking about universal truths, things like love, loss, innocence, or maybe anger? Connecting the poem to the broader human condition is exactly how you show the examiner that you have genuine, deep understanding.
Now, to help you confidently unfold any poem, stanza by stanza, our sources give us this ultimate actionable cheat code, the Amity mnemonic. Think of it as your step-by-step poetry moves. A stands for about, like who is speaking and what's the setting. M is for mood. What are the core feelings here, and do they shift at all? I is for ideas. How does the poem unfold its core message? T is for techniques. What specific methods does the writer use to paint their picture? And finally, Y is for your view. What is your personal response to the piece? If you follow Amity, it ensures you hit every single requirement without missing a beat.
Section 4. Mastering AO2 Writer's Craft.
Okay, so this is where we shift gears and focus on analyzing the deliberate, conscious decisions the writer actually makes to get their meaning across to you. When discussing the writer's craft for AO2, you really need to understand the differences between language, structure, and form. Think of it like a construction site. Language, the specific words and phrases, well, those are your building materials.
They're your bricks and cement. Structure is the framework holding it all together, sort of like the scaffolding that decides when you pause or speed up reading. And form? That's the overall shape, like whether you're looking at a towering skyscraper or a small house. In poetry, that means identifying if it's a sonnet, free verse, or maybe a dramatic monologue. The examiners want to see you select the most relevant of these tools to explain exactly how the writer built their meaning.
Section 5. Climbing the mark scheme.
Let's pull back the curtain and look directly at the rulebook the examiners use to grade your papers. When we look at the actual AQA mark scheme side by side, so the non-comparison 24-mark task on one side and the 8-mark comparison on the other, we can clearly see that advancing through the levels is not about having some sort of literary magic. It is simply about fulfilling very specific, measurable criteria for both your AO1 and AO2.
So let's translate that dense examiner speak into a clear, actionable game plan. Look at how the expectations naturally shift as you level up. To get a level 3, the examiner is looking for explained or structured comments, which honestly just means your goal is to explain basic ideas using relevant quotes. Easy enough. But to upgrade to a level 4, they want clear understanding. This means you need to clearly explain the writer's methods using the appropriate terminology. And if you really want to chase that top level 6, you need a convincing critical analysis. Your goal there is to deeply explore conceptual ideas using judicious, precisely chosen terminology. It is just a step-by-step climb from identifying to explaining and finally to critically analyzing.
I want to wrap up this explainer with an incredibly powerful, reassuring thought from our sources. Look for things that mean something to you, rather than searching for that elusive right answer, which doesn't exist. So the next time you face an unseen poem, just remember that your personal engagement, paired with that structured amity approach we talked about, is your absolute ultimate weapon. Keep practicing those poetry moves and you're going to completely crush it. So what meaning will you uncover the next time you turn over that exam paper?